validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa, I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We've made it to Wednesday, and the government is still shut down. So, with there's a lot of political disarray that is happening right now, and they're battling it out in the courts while we're dealing with that shutdown. So next Monday, we're going to be talking about all the chaos that is happening in the legal system revolving around the shutdown, so that we can kind of get an understanding as to why the country is still not moving. However, luckily, a Supreme Court ruling prevented a large quantity of people from being furloughed. Um, doesn't really do much for the ones who did. So we're going to be talking about how that impacted everybody who was coming along. But today is a little bit different because today we're going to be talking about um, some unorthodox investment opportunities in Bosan and Herzegovina. Let me try that again. Herzegovina, almost like Transylvania. Uh, this is one specific location or a couple of islands compiled together, and we're going to be talking about this country today. How do we invest in, and also the affordability to live there if you decided to go over there as a digital nomad. Uh, in addition to that, make sure that you guys take the opportunity to like and subscribe whenever you have the time. And always go over and hit that notification bell, because while we never let the sun rise without going live, we don't always start on time. So you get notified as to exactly when we go live, and whatever information we have at the top of the hour, that's the information that you need to start with. And that's not going to be there after the post playthrough. So what we've come to understand is, so far, dividend rotation strategy update. We sold Arbor Realty stock, ABR stock, ARR stock, those two stocks right there. They were due the 15th. So ARR and ABR, which was Armor Residential and Arbor Realty, those two stocks got sold today for the dividend rotation strategy. In our month of October, the only other stock that we have to get into is either our AGNC stock or Orchid Island stock, PSEC stock. Those are the three that are available at the end of the month. So the one that is the cheapest is the PSEC stock. It gives a 5% return, and that's not a lot in comparison to the 22% return that you're getting from actually it actually gives a 5 cent return, 5 cents per share return, which is approximately, in comparison to the price of the stock, closer to about 20%, 18 to 20%. However, it is a little bit higher in a percentage return yield than Orchid Island. The only difference is that Orchid Island is almost $7 or $8 a share. Now PSEC is like 285 right now. Last time we hit X dividends, it was around 260. So instead of us diving right into it, because PSEC has a has a X dividend date of around the 27th to the 30th of the month. If we pick it up on the 25th, we would be good to go, which means that we will be picking it up by Friday of next week, so that we have it before, well, we'll pick it up on Thursday or Friday of next week, so that we'll have it before the weekend of next week. Now, this week we're selling on Wednesday, and we're just going to be holding it for like 6 or 7 days, because there's nothing to do with the money at the moment as far as the dividend rotation strategy goes. Um, with the stocks falling, as we sold for dividend rotation, instead of buying and holding and leaving it in a stock, since some of the stocks are depreciating right now during the shutdown, especially in real estate, we do not want to leave our money in a position where we could lose more ground. So instead of us diving right into the next one, we're going to get closer to the ex dividend date, then buy it. After that, we're going to be rotating out of PSEC and rotating into ExxonMobil stock. So we're going to try to grab a hold of that coming up for the beginning of November. And then we're going to be giving you more dividend rotation information as we trickle into November. Now, beyond that, it's a heightened encouragement to follow up on uh, next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that, because next Tuesday we just found some more ways for us to turn about an extra quantity of capital gains with very little effort online, making yourself a digital nomad. So we're going to be talking about that on the upcoming Tuesdays. And we're also going to be doing the full dividend rotation rollout for November and December, so that you guys can be prepared for it. Um, oh, along the bottom of the screen right now, you will see all of the stocks that we follow, and I'm going to have to update the values this week, but the stocks that we follow, about 50 of them. And out of those, we have the lowest costing buy-in stocks with the highest dividend paying stocks that are undervalued in the current market. And then on top of that, we have majority dividend paying stocks that are widely known, that will also give you the growth. And then the remainder are actual growth stocks, including Tesla. And all of the stocks that you see rotating across the bottom of the screen are part of our core satellite portfolio. So if you were trying to do a buy and hold position where you would gradually grow your money without having to do much other than reinvesting your ex dividends, this would be the stocks that you would use to make that happen. For those individuals that are starting up, or for those individuals that are investing on a budget, these are the ones that will get you in the door, get you started. You'll start seeing some capital gains. And as you learn how to trade, you have a principle that will give you the dividends that will allow you to buy and sell and then you'll be able to learn how to make, save, and trade, and build yourself up some skills so that when you start getting into the higher value stocks and bonds and mutualities, you'll be able to diversify. Likewise, being able to get into gold and silver and other precious metals, you'll be able to get into that international trading, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Other countries that you can invest in so that you can expand your portfolio. Because as we discussed on Monday and Tuesday of this week, there is always a possibility for you to put away 40% of your income. If you're living at less than 50% of your income, there's always a way for you to put away 40% of your income and utilize that capital towards building your wealth, where you could potentially make yourself a millionaire inside of 10 years. You can make yourself definitely a multimillionaire inside of 20 years. So even at the age of 40, if you start working towards financial freedom now, doing a 20-year plan, you would likely see yourself at worst case scenario meeting that millionaire status if you're putting away 20 grand a year, which not that hard to do because $1,000 a month is 12,000 a year. So if you start doing it like 1,500 to $2,000 a month, you start doing closer to 20 to $25,000 a year that you would be putting away, and over the course of 10 years, that's $250,000. Over the course of 20 years, that's $500,000 plus interest. You're probably at $750,000. Worst case scenario, if you're doing such a little amount, and I say such a little amount, but when you think about like 10% interest and taxation, yeah, it's not a lot, but it builds you up because you could eventually reach a level where that 10 to 20% interest, even after taxes, uh, would be paying you the quantity of capital that you could live off of so that you would not have to work for anyone. You would be finding side hustles like the ones we're going to talk about on Tuesday that will aid you in making extra side money, and you'd be occupying your boredom instead of struggling every day, being exhausted, not getting enough sleep, barely trying to make ends meet. So take that into consideration as you like and subscribe and follow the channel, because we got a lot of information for you guys that'll aid you in being financially successful. Now, for those of you that is watching us on Twitch and Twitter, special shout out to y'all. Make sure that y'all take the opportunity to follow the channel and also hit the like button on that side of things. But also remember that we are highly interactive on this channel. So if you guys put in comments, we will respond to those comments as long as those comments are appropriate. So make sure you keep your comments appropriate, because we do got some jitterbugs that come through here that's not quite of the age of 18. And we want to keep the comments clean so that when they come through here that they learn something positive. Okay. Now, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we talk about financial improvement. Uh, Monday is how politics and geopolitical trades impacts your ability to make money. Tuesday is either stock trades or other precious mineral investments, Bitcoin discussions, or just ways to make side money outside of your primary job. And then Wednesdays, today, we talk about different countries we can invest in. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, personal development, relationships, networking, how to build your business up. And then Sunday, questions and comments from the fans. So we cover everything that you need to make yourself a higher valued individual, fellas and ladies. So with that being said, oh yeah, special shout out to Michael. He's going to be watching the comment section. So if y'all slide through here, anything off temper, he's got you. However, let's go ahead and get started with today's discussion, because I know y'all fell through because y'all want to hear what's going on with being a digital nomad in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We're gonna get that pronunciation correctly. Okay. However, needless to say, since everyone is telling you guys to invest, and they usually tell everybody to invest in real estate, because even I know that investing in real estate is a effective way to start up a business in any country around the world if you have the money. But while everyone is telling you to invest in real estate, I think that that might be a terrible idea in this particular country, because in Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the most affordable countries in all of Europe, a and while most foreign investors are looking at apartments, they're completely missing the real gold mines. So investing in real estate out there is still doable. You can still make a decent quantity of money, but it might require a lot more effort than what you're willing to get in a return. Now, in tonight's show, I'm going to be showing you guys three unorthodox businesses that I've found from tourism to artisan crafts that have the potential for huge returns precisely because almost no one is talking about them. Forget about stocks for a moment. Forget about saturated property markets where you're competing with giants who have large funds, deep pockets. We're on a different hunt today. We came here with a mission to find real on the ground businesses that a normal person, an entrepreneur, could start with a reasonable investment and see massive life changing returns. What I discovered is a country on the cusp of a major transformation. Usually that's when they pop up. A place where a gap in the market is wide open and there's multiple gaps. So I'm going to walk you through exactly where those gaps are and how you can be in one of those gaps to fill the gap with massive profits for yourself. Before we dive into the three investments, you need to know and understand why they're here. Why now? Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country of staggering contradictions, almost like sweet and sour kids. We're going to love it though, because it's a place where you can see the scars of a difficult past etched into the buildings and yet feel an overwhelming sense of warmth, resilience, and forward looking optimism from its people. It's a country with a projected GDP growth of around 2.4% to 2.7% for 2025, a steady climb that signals a resilient and recovering economy. But the headlines often miss the real story. The real story for an investor, for an entrepreneur, is in the numbers. The cost of living here is honestly incredible. The data shows an average monthly cost of living is around $600 to $800 a month, which is right on par with the cost of living to be in Japan. Very cheap, probably 10% of the cost of living in the United States. And that's excluding the rent. But what about the rent? In the capital city of Sarajevo, a beautiful one-bedroom apartment in the city center can run you just about $300 to $400 a month, making your total monthly expenses anywhere between $900 and $1,200 a month. I'm gonna let you sink in for just a minute. He said, buy real estate here unless you're a millionaire. Millionaire, easier to keep an eye on things. Okay, a little bit of a debate there. You can buy real estate in the United States because you live in the United States. And if you're buying real estate in the neighborhood where you live, it is easier for you to monitor your properties. However, if you hire a third party to manage the property on your behalf, taking in tenants, maintaining the property, paying their own salaries, and shipping you the difference, you are making pure money off of a self sustainable system where you don't have to watch it. Now, what would have to happen if you were doing this in another country is you would have to have contracts with a property management company that would, in fact, monitor your properties for you, issue you out dividends. You might, to secure your position, have to pay them a little more, take a little less to guarantee that while you're not in that country, they're going to take good care of you. But with the cost in other countries cheaper than the cost of America, if you were paying somebody in America 30% the cost of the rent in order to manage the property for you and take care of the tenants, you might be paying somebody else even still 30% of the cost of the rent in another country, and that cost be far less. Because again, the rent here is around 800. In the United States, the rent would be closer to 2,000. In America, they'd be getting closer to $600 per month per property, where in a different country, they might be paying closer or getting paid closer to $300 to $400 a month to maintain the property. Or if it's $800 a month, they might be getting closer to $200 a month to maintain the property, $250 a month to maintain the property. Either way it goes, the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business. So I do agree that if you want to micromanage your properties, it's good for you to get some right where you live. But if you're planning on moving to different countries or traveling around the world, you're not going to be watching those properties anyway. So do you buy a property in the United States, or do you buy a property in a different country that's cheaper and potentially get dual citizenship in that country? He said, buy precious metals today, not tomorrow. He's smart. That right now in the volatile market, precious metals is where it's at. Look at silver. Silver is at $52.42, which is like 12 or $13 higher than normal. It's usually about 10% the value of gold. Silver is overshadowing gold. Now, the problem that I have with buying silver right now is that because silver is skyrocketing right at this moment in comparison to the norm, once the shutdown stops, those people that are buying in at $52 a share is going to watch silver drop back down to $38 a share. They're going to lose $20 a share, $20 an ounce on silver. Now, if you're continuously buying on silver and you're going to hold silver for the next 20 years, then silver might actually spike over the next 10 years, and you would own a few hundred ounces of gold, or a few hundred ounces of silver. That would be a smarter move. But if you're buying silver right now just to ride the wave of the shutdown, that's a bad move at $52 an ounce. Especially after the shutdown happens, you're going to call yourself trying to sell. You're going to sell after the dip. And that's not good. But it is good to get silver over gold right now because silver's cheaper at $52 an ounce for silver versus 47,000 or $4,700 an ounce for gold. You could probably buy at least 90 ounces of silver for the same price of 1 ounce of gold, which is outrageous. And then when gold is not as far in demand as silver, or if gold is no longer accessible in comparison to silver and the demand for silver increases, you're going to see silver match gold, and whoever's got the most silver is going to be the richest person in the country. Michael says, property manager. Yep. Even property managers need to be kept an eye on. You are correct. Property managers need to be kept an eye on. But if you know how much the property is supposed to cost, you know how much money you're supposed to get, and then they do what they're supposed to do with the rest. Now, what you should be doing is traveling the world and following up on your properties and making sure that your properties are in the right condition, interviewing your tenants to make sure that the property is taking care of the property the way you want the property taken care of so that your tenants are happy, because you're never supposed to be in a situation where you never look at your investment at all. You always go back and check your investment. So if you're investing in real estate, your investment is the property. And if you're investing in the dividends from the real estate, your dividends is the rent being paid. So if you're checking on your investment, you want to go to wherever property in whatever country that it's in at least once a year and make sure that the property is in good condition and make sure that the tenants are happy, because that's how you're able to secure the quantity of money that you have. And if there's anything going wrong on the property, you will find out about it because you're hearing directly from the tenants, which then allows you to call the property manager and have the property manager to make changes so that your tenants are happy, so that your money consistently comes in. So it's not a situation where you just turn a blind eye, but it's still not the kind of situation if you have a property manager where you're required to stay in one country 12 months out of the year just to keep an eye on a property manager. In that situation, you might as well do it yourself, and you don't have the ability to live. The whole ability to invest internationally is so that you can make money with little to no effort anywhere around the world, especially if you have access to internet and all you have to do is wake up and live life. But if you have to wake up and call the property manager and make sure that your money is in, if you have to wake up and go to the bank and make sure that your money is there, if you have to wake up and check your bank account online on your cell phone and make sure that you got paid every day, then you're still micromanaging, even though it's semi automated, it's not fully automated. And we want to get you to a fully automated position because that average is 10% of the rent. Okay, so the average property manager gets paid 10% of the rent. So if it's $800 a month, they're getting $80. If it's $2,000 a month, they're getting $200. That's fine. But that also mean well, but that would be like their fee. But I'm sitting over here calculating like they're going to take out money for repairs and stuff to that effect, renovations, stuff to that effect, and all of that's going to come out of the money every month and then put into a pool of money that they're going to manage so that your whatever residual is going to continue to come back to you on a regular basis. And then if the money is short, they're going to have to fix it. So you check on your properties every year. Yeah, every year, not every day. So we'll take a small dip. Back will continue to climb, but will continue to climb. That's right. It will take a small dip, but it will continue to climb over the years as long as you stay. If you do a buy and hold, long term investments are not affected by the short term fluctuations. But a short term buying silver just because you see the silver on a rise, and then you're going to sell silver because the stock market is no longer shut down, then that's a bad move. But if you're going to buy silver to keep it, buy silver, $52 a share, even if the shutdown stops. The world is unstoppable. The world is seemingly unstoppable because COVID shut down the world for almost 2 years. You can make money somewhere, but where you was making money before might not be a way to make money right now, but you will be able to make money somewhere. So you are unstoppable, just mildly delayed depending on the circumstances. Every country is buying gold and silver and stockpiling it. Yes, but they're buying more gold than silver. Uh, there's also other precious metals that is related to green energy and semiconductors and electric cars, and those precious metals you should invest in, buy and hold, because when those precious metals are accessed, because they're hard to come by, those precious metals are going to be extremely valuable, which means that however many ounces you have, whether you're holding them in ETFs or if you're actually holding the physical elements, however many pounds of it you have will flip you over to like Warren Buffett style rich in a few years. So it's always good to grab a hold of those. There's China, Russia, and England all stockpiling precious metals. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I should never hear from a tenant. Well, if you go check on the property, they're gonna come and tell you how the shit ain't being built the way it's supposed to be built. He said, you won't make money if your employees are stealing. You are correct, but you're not starting up your own property management company where you have to curate the crew. You're hiring an already active property management company, and then you're paying them a flat rate for their service, and they're going to manage the money that is supposed to be coming in. You should know how much money is coming in. You should know how much money should go out to them, and they have to figure out how to pay their people out of their pocket because your money should be whatever values you know that it's supposed to be from month to month unless your tenant doesn't pay rent. So because you know what the values are supposed to be, you're less checking on the property manager and more checking the accounts that are managing the property. And if the numbers don't look right, then you call the property manager. But if the numbers look right, then you're only going to stop by the property and make sure that the property is up to code. Make sure the grass is cut, no leaky pop faucets, stuff to that effect, no trash in the front yard, no code enforcement violations, and then just go on about your day. You might knock on the door and see how the tenants are doing, but that's like being a really good uh, uh, property owner. But just to drive by and make sure that the house still looks like it's being properly taken care of and then keep on going. I mean, hey, whatever you do to make sure, because millionaires pay somebody to do that for them. Even fast food chains have a secret shopper that passes by and gets the customer experience so that they can report back to upper management about how the employees are treating the customers. Because if profits are going down, something's going wrong. Because that money comes from their damage and last month's rent. Not all the time. Not all the time. Because when you start talking about, he's taking it stopple. It's not a stopple. So you think that the money for repairs on the property comes solely from the last month's rent and damages, and that's not altogether true. Renovations of the property where you're repairing what the tenant breaks, that might be, depending on the size of the damage, come from the security deposit and maybe the first and or last month's rent. If you're just slapping on a little bit of paint, maybe changing out the carpet, mopping some floors and wiping down some windows. But if you have to fix a hole in the wall, if you have to repair a baseboard, or if you have to redo the tile floors, or if you have to replace all the linoleum, or something to that effect, if you have to change out the windows for upgraded windows or whatever the case may be, certain types of repairs far exceed the $2,000 to $6,000 that you hold from the tenant as deposits. And then when you think about those deposits are set aside away from the rent. And when the tenant moves out, they file a request with you to get their money reimbursed. Then you got to give them that money back. So any deposit that you're holding on the behalf of the tenant, if they don't damage the apartment, which is outside of wear and tear, that money goes back to them. But if you deduct the cost of any repairs, where like stains on the carpet and other such stuff is going to come out of the security deposit, you're going to get some money back. But you anything that's not inside of the apartment, like the outer walls of the apartment, or the roof, or the yard, septic tanks, stuff that has nothing to do with the inside of the unit, that's not coming out of that security deposit with the damage in the monthly rent. You're going to have to put aside extra money to cover that, to repave the driveway and other such stuff. You have to put extra money aside for that. Redo the fence. If they didn't break the fence, but you still got to repaint the fence, you know, that type of wear and tear on the property is not covered in the rent, because they don't even touch outside most of the time. Most tenants don't go outside. So you got to put a little bit of money aside. So when I was considering the amounts that I was considering all of the stuff that I might have to pay for to manage that property. He said nothing better than gold in hand. Silver in hand is better than gold in hand, in my personal opinion. I mean, when you start talking about pound for pound, which one's better, it's easier to carry around a brick of gold than it is to carry around a brick of silver, because a brick of gold is worth more money. But I mean, when you start talking about like value wise for profitable gains, gold is not going to jump up $100,000 over silver, but silver could match gold, where silver goes from being $57 a share to being $5,000. I mean, $57 an ounce to being $5,000 an ounce, and match with gold. And anybody who has large quantities of silver would be able to experience that 1,000% gain, which is different from, you know what I'm saying, having gold and receiving a 20% gain. That's the difference. Is that, or it comes out of my pockets? Yes, it will come out of your pockets. Now, he was talking about monthly reports. Yeah, you're going to get monthly reports. But like you said, if they steal and them reports are incorrect. But if you're watching the accounts, the money don't look right before they make the report. Because you're like, shit, I was looking at those accounts and those reports don't look right. Something are normal wear and tear. Yes. Yeah. So we come in and repaint every apartment when people move out. Okay. But again, that repainting isn't part of the security deposit and the first and last month's rent. That money is going to be for repair of the entire establishment, which comes out of your profit, which means you got to put a little extra money aside out of the rent in addition to what, because the security deposit goes in one spot that's supposed to be collectible by the tenant when the tenant moves out, but the repairs of the property that is not involving the tenant's stay, those repairs of the structural integrity of the property, that's going to come out of your pocket and you have to budget for that. He said roof yard comes out of monthly maintenance account, which requires you to watch the maintenance. So now you're catching up to me, which requires you to watch that monthly maintenance account to make sure they're not misappropriating the capital. So you're still in a situation where you watch the money more than you watch the crew, and you pass by the property and make sure that the property looks right. That's my assessment of things. But I mean, I don't know everything about everything. I know a little bit of something about a little bit of something enough to get us by. Most tenants don't even open their curtains. You are right. The nosy ones do, but most tenants do not even go outside. So the outer walls of the property is going to be you, outside windows. If you got a house, they might be responsible for the grass. But if you got an apartment, you got landscapers cutting the grass. Outside of picking up the animals' poop, there is nothing for them to do outside. You're fixing the fences, you're dealing with the pool, everything, all of that stuff. That's stuff that you got to budget for. So you know how much you're supposed to get paid after you give the property manager what they need in their maintenance account to maintenance the property and pay their employees. So again, you're still putting away a percentage. And if you're putting away 40%, where you're giving them their 10% and the other 30% goes towards the maintenance of the property, you're still able to walk away with 70%, but you don't have to chase that property every day. You just got to go back and check and make sure that the money is right at once a month or so. Now, let's get into $300 or $400 um, investment opportunities in a European capital. So the financial advantages are the foundation of the entire strategy that we're about to get into today because we're going to be talking about some success here. Okay. A monthly budget of just $2,000 is not just going to get you by, it allows for a genuinely high standard of living in this country that we're talking about today. So, we're talking about a very comfortable lifestyle with enough cash to cover a great apartment, all your food and utilities, transportation, and still have plenty left over for leisure, travel, and even privatized healthcare. And this is going to be your first unfair advantage because your burn rate, the amount of money that you need to survive while you build your business, is going to be incredibly low in this country. So while competitors in London, Berlin, or New York City in the United States are burning through tens of thousands of dollars a month just to keep the lights on, you can open up in this country for a fraction of that. And that gives you a much longer runway to succeed. Because one of the things that we have a problem with starting up a business is not having enough capital to make it to the profits or not having enough time to put in the effort to make it successful. But when you have enough, because we budget, you will find the success that you're looking for. Is that we know when things need to be done. That's a damn right. And we want something done right, we get out there and we do it ourselves. And then when we find somebody who can do it better than us, we promote that person, make them a manager, and have that person teach everybody else how to do it so that we ain't got to do it no more. Half-assing, you should be doing it at least as good as I do it. That would be my assessment. Now, low cost is only half of the equation in this country. The other half is opportunities. So most foreign money flowing into both Bosnia. Look, I've been calling it Bosnia. We're in Bosnia right now. And I just realized it when I thought that's pronounced Bosnia. So Bosnia is predictable. In Bosnia, it goes into real estate, big hotels, or large manufacturing plants. That's where the most foreign money goes. And these are safe and boring and increasingly competitive plays. The real magic is the 10 times returns that are in the niches that are being completely ignored. That's what I came to find. So I spent time going over this, not in the bedrooms, but in the mountains, in ancient marketplaces, and having the ability to look through conversations with small local business owners who are the true lifebloods of the country. And I've distilled my findings into three concrete, actionable, and unorthodox investment opportunities that leverage the unique strategies of this country. So we'll be able to see exactly what's going on here. He said most of the apartments don't have pools. It's a big maintenance headache. I can't say most apartments don't have pools. I can say that smaller apartment complexes don't have pools. When you have like a duplex, a fourplex, if you have like a single building complex where it's just a building surrounded by parking lots, I could say that those areas don't have pools. But anything that's like a small village because you have 10 or 20 multi-story units in a cluster, there's usually a park and a swimming pool in the middle of all of those buildings. The larger the complex, the more likely there's going to be a pool there, a tennis court, a basketball court, a kid's playground, maybe even a dog park in most medium sized to large apartment complexes. Now, when you start talking about the small ones, yeah, the small ones don't have pools, but the big ones do. Is we don't put washers and dryers in most units. That's not true. Actually, these days, landlords, if they have the ability to have washer and dryer hookups, do put washers and dryers into the complex because they can increase the cost of rent and make more money off of the tenant than what they would because appliances anything added to the unit above base standard of living increases the value of the rent. You can charge $1,100 a month for a 750 square foot apartment because it comes with a washer and dryer. Because the hot water heater is gas, but you don't pay for gas because it's incorporated into the rent. Any amenities that is in addition to base standard of living can be the reason why you're charging more for the rent than the standard market average of $1 per square foot. And you're only likely to charge $2 per square foot when you're dealing with a two-story house. So 1,000 square foot two-story house should be $2,000 a month. Also, should be a three-bedroom house. So you will find a lot of units that, but if it doesn't have a washer and dryer hookup in it, then no, it's not going to come with washers and dryers. Michael said go solar. Always find a way to go solar because even if you don't get the credit, the tax credit from it, because they're switching over to different plans, at least you don't have to pay Tico for it. So, always go solar. Now, my mentality was if all of my properties go solar and I fixate a charge station on each one of my properties, when I go to that property, go check on that property, I can charge my electric car. So I can get free electricity when I tap into my tenants and save me a ton of money on gas. 62 units, we don't have pools. Well, 62 units, but you don't have 62 buildings. So let's get that straight because 62 units could be a three-story building that is one building surrounded by a bunch of parking lots. But if you had 62 buildings, there would be a pool in the middle of that. There would be a clubhouse. There would be a court, a tennis court, a basketball court, 10 buildings on the same property. Gonna probably have a pool in the middle of that somewhere. So, because you got to look at how many if how many units are on one floor, because like you got hotels that have, you know, 100 units on the first floor. It's a three-story building, and hotels have pools, but some hotels that have just 50 units, 2 stories, 25 on the first floor, 25 on the second floor, and don't have a pool. So it really depends on the size of the building and the size of the property. So if you have, like I said, three, five, seven, 10 buildings, that's a medium or large size complex, not apartment building, apartment complex. There's going to be a pool there. So if we do, we increase the rent for those units. Exactly. Increasing the rent. Whenever you put up amenities, you're gonna increase the he said maybe 6 units. I I mean I guess you're trying to say, like, out of 62 units, maybe 6 units. So you're saying like you have solar on 6 units out of 62, or what are you implying? Because it sounds to me like out of 62 units, you probably got, like I said, uh 10 or 12 on each floor, and that might be a 3 or 4 bedroom, if that, complex, or not complex, but like building structure, and then it's still one building surrounded by parking spaces, so it's still the same. If you need a 3 bedroom, it's cheaper to rent a house. If you need a place to stay, it's cheaper to rent a house. You get more land for your buck, because when you're paying $2 or $3 per square foot, and you're getting um what, $40 an acre. Wait, hold on. Let me look at one of your houses. I was sitting over here looking at a house. We was going through all kinds of stuff when we start doing these calculations here, and they got some houses that are priced at $78 per square foot of property for sale. And you got to think about how that is a one-time buy. But when you think about somebody who's paying $800 a month or $1,000 a month, you're paying $12,000 a year for 750 square feet, which costs way more money, and you still don't own shit. So it's cheaper to buy a house than it is to rent, but not too many people have the credit scores and the satisfactory income to buy a house. So that's one of the reasons why there was changes being made in the country. He said 500 doors, only one complex has a pool. Well, I mean, 500 doors, majority of them could be houses, and you only have one pool. That's cool. Still not defecting from the point that larger apartment complexes have pools. Small apartment complexes don't have pools. Small apartment complexes, 1 or 2 buildings surrounded by parking lots, no pools. Medium large scale, where 10 or 15 buildings on one piece of property, pool, swing. The position is not going to change. The position is not going to change. You give me a Zillow link that shows 10 buildings in a complex with no pool. 6 units is not 6 buildings, though. 6 units is 6 apartments. 6 units have washers and dryers. That's cool. But 6 units could have washers and dryers because you don't have to wash or dryer hookup. You didn't invest the time to put in the washers and dryers because you didn't feel the need to charge more money, but now you know you can charge more money because there's washers and dryers in there. You have the washer dryer hookup available for the tenants to bring their own washers and dryers. But again, people charge more money for amenities. So you could probably raise the rent just by putting washers and dryers in the unit. Then a coin is no, because if you're gonna do a coin dispensing washer and dryer, you're gonna have a laundromat on site. I'm not talking about a laundromat on site. I'm talking about, uh, matter of fact, you can have the water and gas included in the rent and charge them an extra $100 a month for that, and that cover the cost of the washer and dryer on the property. And they're not going to complain because there's a washer and dryer on the property. They're going to save a couple $100 a month on washer and dryer because they're using one in the unit, but you're going to make an extra $100 a month on services because they've got a washer and dryer in there that's guaranteed to suck up more water than the average shower. So, they're not going to complain about it, and they'll pay what you ask because of the amenities. Smaller space, but the luxury of not having to drive across town to wash their clothes. I'm trying to tell you. Is it a coin operated washer and dryer on each property? You don't have to do all that. You could simply put a regular washer and dryer in each unit and raise the rent a little bit. Or, like I said, add utilities. And if you have a complex wide situation where water is running from the entire complex and water, electricity, and gas is running through the entire complex, you got one big bill and you break that off on 500 doors. Everybody's paying towards that one big bill. You could turn a profit off of the fact that they're overpaying on the thing because until they reach usage level, if they're paying a flat rate for an overestimated quantity of usage, anything they don't use is a profit in your pocket. So, and because utilities are included in the rent, if they start exceeding the flat rate usage, you can charge more money to the rent for the increase in utilities. So if somebody's leaking water and they're thousands of gallons of water a month, you just charge them for it. Okay, pools are considered a luxury. Yeah, they are considered, which is why you would charge more for the property. That's why they put pools and parks and swings and dog parks and all of these other things in the complex because they could charge more money for that. They put 24-hour gyms in there and everything like that so they can charge you more money than the value of the property. So most apartments don't have pools. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lean on that. I'm not gonna lean on that at all. I'm not. I'm not gonna lean on the fact that most apartments don't have pools. Small apartment complexes don't have pools. Individual apartments don't have a pool behind the apartment, but if the apartment is in an apartment complex with a large enough structure, it's likely to have a pool. Medium and large size apartment complexes have pools. Small apartment complexes, small like one or two buildings, three or four buildings, don't have pools. Because I mean, again, you're looking at like less than a quarter of an acre of properties, three or four buildings, probably not going to have a pool. But you start talking about 7 acres or 5 acres of buildings, there's going to be a whole neighborhood in there. Where do you think I got all my silver coins? From your estate sales. Because you're not putting a change machine in the tenant's apartment and then you're going to go to the tenant's apartment every day and take the change out of the change machine. You would do that if you have a laundromat on the property, but you're not going to have a laundromat in the tenant's unit. So yeah, you can do a laundromat in the property and have your washroom where you have coin collectors for the usage of the machines. Yeah, you can do that, and that would generate you more revenue. And that would be the excuse as to why you didn't put the washers and dryers in each one of the units. But again, you're not making as much money off of the handful of washers and dryers as you would have by jacking up everybody's rent for having a washer and dryer in their unit. No, it doesn't because it could be it's the same maintenance problem. What you mean? What you mean? That's a reckless idea. Okay. One family's washer and dryer would last them 5 to 10 years. A handful of washers and dryers used by hundreds of people will last several months. It's the same as having one pair of shoes being worn by 50 people and 50 pair of shoes being worn by one person. The fact is that if each unit has its own washer and dryer, you can get used washers and dryers from a refurbished washer and dryer store because if it comes with the unit, they don't care of the quality as long as it doesn't tear up their clothes. So if you put a washer and dryer in there, and the washers and dryers might cost $100 a pop, it'll still outlast the tenant more often than not if they don't break the machine. And again, if the machine breaks, you could take one out and put another one in. You can scrap those and get money from the salvage yard when they're no longer salvageable and make money off of it. So you can, and then if you're charging more money on the rent because it's in there, you're making more money off the machine itself. Some of the better washers and dryers are like $1,000, and those bad boys last for decades. So at 10 years, $1,000 washing machine costs you $100 a year. And if the tenant is paying an extra $10 or $20 a month for the apartment with the washer and dryer in it, you're still making $200 or $400 a year on the fact that they got an apartment with the washer and dryer in it, which means that in 10 years you would have paid for two LG Samsung washers and dryers. There's no reason why you couldn't put washers and dryers into the unit or go to rent a center. I'm not going to rent a center. Rent a center is overcharging you for washers and dryers. You would do better. Uh, you would do better going to a appliance store that sells used appliances because you can buy them dirt cheap. They fix whatever's wrong with them, and you can put them in your units. And because it's not brand new, you don't care if they tear it up. Ask Google. Well, you can ask the Google lady if you want to. If you want to go over there and go ask the Google lady, you can ask the Google lady if you want to. If you choose not to charge more for the rent, then you'll be in a position where the money for the laundromat might be higher than the money for the rent. But if you were to charge more money for units that have appliances in them, luxury appliances in them, people pay for convenience and they're not going to argue about it, especially when your rent is almost the same as the rent for the complex down the street, and the complex down the street don't have a washer and dryer in there. So it is what it is when it comes down to paying for convenience. People will pay a premium for luxury. You just got to be willing to charge the price. The average apartment complex doesn't have pools. That's not true. Now you're thinking like a millionaire. I've been thinking like a millionaire this whole time. And I'm going to keep telling you that's not true. The average apartment complex does the average small apartment complex does not have pools, but the average apartment complex that is large to medium size does have pools. They at least have a pool. Tenants will abuse them. Tenants aren't going to abuse them. That's the misconception that people have. People think that when they get into real estate, and this is the biggest crutch that you have that steers you towards failure. People think that if you put something into a building, that the tenants are going to tear it up. That's not true. Tenants are so scared of being charged for shit when they walk out. They're not going to call themselves fucking nothing up because they don't want to be held responsible for it financially, especially if they're poor, especially if they need this place. They're not tearing stuff up. People who are trying to come up from a hard time, they're not tearing stuff up. You give them a handout, they're going to take it and they're going to cherish it. People who don't need it, people who don't value it because they got extra, they will tear stuff up. Rich people will tear shit up faster than poor people because rich people don't value shit because they can buy 10 Bugattis. So they could tear up a Toyota Yaris in a heartbeat, but give a person walking a Toyota Yaris and they'll treat that bitch like a Bentley. You're not going to tell me that tenants is going to tear up the washer and dryer inside of their own apartment versus tearing up the washer and dryer at the laundromat. This one ain't mine. They're going to tear that one up. The one inside of the unit, this is mine. I pay for it. They're not going to tear that up. They're going to take better care of that one because they are the only ones that get to use it. And the landlord going to take their sweet ass time to come and fix the washer and dryer because it's not an emergency. That's what I'm trying to show you. You not learning from experience. Washers around 1,000 plus. You can find a washing machine around 1,000 plus if you're finding brand new ones, but you're not going to find a used or refurbished washer and dryer for around 1,000 bucks. You'll find a used or refurbished washer and dryer for around 100 bucks. If you're trying to do a rental property, you're not trying to buy a brand new LG or Samsung washer and dryer for your apartment complex. You're trying to find you an old school Whirlpool for your apartment complex, which isn't going to cost you that much. And the $100 that you spent on the washer and the $100 that you spent on the dryer is $200, and it lasts you 10 years. That is $10 a year on each washer and dryer that you put into each one of those units, when your tenants are still paying you 25 extra dollars a month for that washer and dryer being in their unit, which means you're still making 180 to $400 a year worth of profit off of those washers and dryers being in a unit. You still can't prove to me that it's not cheaper to put them in the unit than it is to put them on a laundromat on the property. Again, diversify. He said, I'm sorry you've been declined renting. I've never been declined. Entrepreneurships. I'm trying to tell you, there are ways to make money for you. So you just got to know how to put the pricing up there. You got to make it worth their while. If the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business, people will pay what it takes. I love these ridiculous questions. When people want to challenge the status quo, when there are no facts to offset what I'm talking about, they want to make it seem like I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't have 1,000 doors or whatever the case may be. The truth of the matter is, facts are facts. Statistics indicate that if you charge more money on the rent due to the luxuries and amenities into the unit, you could profit off of the amenities that you add to the units, plain and simple. Then you're going to tell me that on average. And when you start talking about on average, you're making a broad spectrum claim, which isn't going to be true. I said specifically, smaller complexes are not going to have pools in them more often than not, but the medium and large size ones are going to have pools in them because there's larger areas. When there's multiple buildings in one piece of property, there's going to have pools in them. So the ones that don't have the sizing for the pools in them are less likely to have pools in them. But I mean, we can argue this all night because I ain't got nothing to do for another 6 hours. But the truth of the matter is that it is what it is. Can't get money from a poor person, from a poor person. You can get all kind of shit from poor people because you got, see, look, this is what I'm talking about. The lack of recognition here. You can get money from a poor person. You got Section 8, you got HUD, you can get all kinds of money from poor people. You can charge them extra money on the down payment because they're a high risk tenant. You're going to get late fees. You're going to get interest rates on top of the late fees off of the high risk tenants. They're going to be paying you twice a month because they're paying you some for last month and some for this month. And they're still going to pay you for the luxury of having a washer and dryer in a unit. What do you mean you can't get money from a poor person? You can't get money from an unemployed person, but you can get money from a poor person. 99% of the population is poor. What are you talking about? 74% are poor and under 100,000 a year. What are you talking about? They leave without paying the rent. They do not leave without paying the rent. You put them out because they didn't pay the rent. They don't leave without paying the rent. They pay you whatever they got to pay you to stay in the place because they don't want to get evicted. Flush diapers, etc., down the drain. That's a tenant that you picked. Cheaper to buy it new and write off on taxes. I mean, if you're going to buy brand new appliances and use them as tax deductions, then they end up saving you money anyway because the amount of money you would have been taxed on the profit you made off of your tenants will be offset by the money that you spent on the appliance. So now you're not complaining about them tearing up the washer and dryer because the washer and dryer is considered a financial loss, which also means that if you put brand new washers and dryers in the apartment and you charge more money for the washers and dryers, then you will still have a profit off the washers and dryers and a tax deduction on a replacement of them and more profits all the way around. Now we were sitting over here supposed to be talking about The bureaucracy of it. Okay, so hold on. We were supposed to be talking about uh we're supposed to be talking about distilling these findings into three concrete, actionable, unorthodox investment opportunities. So the businesses that aren't capital intensive are the businesses that we're going to be talking about. They're knowledge intensive. So they require creativity, grit, and a willingness to see what others don't. So we're about to get into these in just a second. True, but uh, when most people don't live in luxury apartments, most people don't live in luxury apartments because most landlords don't have the mindset to make the apartments luxurious so that they can charge more money for the rent. Most landlords don't even want to put money into the apartment. They just want to make money off of the apartment. So they are depressed at renovating the apartment and keeping the apartment up to code. Most landlords prefer to allow the apartments to be under repaired until the tenant moves out and only fix the necessities until the tenant moves out instead of fixing whatever breaks along the way. Holes in the wall, light bulbs out, cracks in the windows, whatever the case may be, because it will cost the landlord more money. However, because any damage done to the property that's not normal wear and tear is a financial responsibility of the tenant is less likely to report damage to the property because they don't want to have to pay extra money for the damage. Because even though the landlord can come and fix that hole in the wall right now, they can also add that repair to the rent for next month right now. And that's one of the reasons why they don't report shit. So while we're sitting over here talking, he's going to ask me. We've talked about the multiple units that I have in multiple states because we have them here in Florida. We have them in North Central America. We got complexes out in Nevada. We were supposed to be building something in Arkansas. We were supposed to be going down to Louisiana. We were talking about taking it international. Depending on how many that you would satisfy you with the argument, the fact of the matter is that landlords don't take quality care of their complexes, which is the reason why there's a title called slum lords because they don't do well with keeping up on their properties. And mostly it's the property manager's part, not so much the owner of the property's fault. But the fact is that they collect their money and they disappear. They don't check on their properties. But if they wanted to have luxury apartments, they could. And if they wanted to charge more money for those luxury apartments, they could. But that would cause gentrification because if you're not trying to make money off of poor folks, if you charge too much money for the rent, all the poor people are going to move away. Your stable income comes from Section 8, VA, and other such government funded places. And those places are going to allow you to have consistent capital. Middle class workers and upper class workers are more riskier than government funded tenants because government funded tenants is going to pay you on a regular basis as opposed to uh, any of the people who could lose their job off of furlough. Section 8 HUD is still getting their rent money, even though furloughed workers aren't paying their rent right now, 3 weeks in. So how many units do you have that are federal workers? Bosnia. He said, "Where's the book, y'all?" He said, "Where's the book?" So there go the book he talking about. This ain't a financial book. I should be showing you the other book from I don't even have that book near my location right now. It's over there on the bookshelf. From Tim Owens about how to invest and live off of 8% for your retirement. Remember to like and subscribe. That was a good interesting debate, but I mean it's the lack of diversification of your complexes is the reason why there's a lot of closed mindedness in relation to the complex structure. But I can always go uh triple double check on whatever it is that you're trying to throw out there. But no, you have to circumvent the all or nothing phrase because that's too generalized and it's never true. And you would have to be specific about what types of apartment complexes do not have pools. And that is going to make a difference because there is a statistical probability that depending on the size there will be a pool. See, and we're gonna bust this myth real quick. So, apartment complexes with pools are more commonly found in larger buildings with more units, while smaller buildings and mid-sized properties are less likely to have pools. Small, low-rise buildings, duplexes, triplexes, and apartments with fewer than 20 units generally do not have pools due to cost, maintenance, and space limitations. Large scale apartment complexes, typically those in the last 15 years, with amenities aimed at young professionals, almost always, almost always, I had to say it multiple times, have a pool. Mid rise and high rise complexes, especially those with multiple buildings, often feature communal pools, communal pools, communal pools. So I took the time to go ahead and look it up for you to clarify for you. So typical apartment complex sizes, duplex, triplex, and small multi-unit buildings rarely have pools, especially if 4 to 20 units. Large complexes, often 50 plus units, frequently include pools along with other amenities like fitness centers and clubhouses, which I already told to you. Newer suburban cookie cutter complexes almost always have pools as standard amenities, and the pools are only not common in small buildings because pools require significant maintenance and safety compliance, which is not cost effective in buildings with fewer residents. Space limitations in smaller properties makes it impractical to install the pool, and regulations and market trends favor amenities in larger properties to attract renters. Pool trends in apartment complexes, where the majority of large apartment complexes aim to attract renters with the pool as a premium feature, meaning they're charging more money on a rent because there's a pool on the premises. Residents sometimes pay through built in rent or amenity fees, even if they rarely use the pool. So they'll pay more money on their rent because there's a pool in their complex that they never go to. The same way they pay more money on their rent for a fitness center that they never go to. So when you said that most of them don't, wrong. So back to Bosnia. Here on this and that, when I talk about this, that, and everything in between, I only go on facts. So when someone tries to contradict what I just said, you're going to have to show me some facts. Because when I tell you what's going on, I'm telling you what's going on. Now, he was talking about 500 doors that he got going on, 500 units. And I just looked it up for him and showed him how the information that he's going off of is not as accurate as he thought it was. So go back and do some research, Michael. He told me, he said, go ask the Google lady. Well, I went ask the perplexity lady, and the perplexity lady said, you're wrong. Now, let's look at some of these in Bosnia. In this side of Bosnia, you don't see on the news is what we're about to start talking about. This country is a paradise of untouched nature. We're talking pristine rivers, perfect for rafting, mountains that rival the Alps for hiking, and forests that feel like they're from a fairy tale. The potential for tourism is obvious, and It's growing. But the unorthodox opportunity isn't to build another concrete hotel. It's to leapfrog that entire model and cater to the new generation of travelers. The opportunity is in high end, eco friendly luxury glamping. Glamping or glamorous camping is exploding globally. Now, this is a niche that not too many people know what's going on. Uh, it's for the traveler who wants to be immersed in nature but doesn't want to sacrifice comfort. That's trifling. I'm a camper, but I gotta have my AC unit and my deep freezer and my 62-inch flat screen TV. It's rustic because it's not a 62-inch, it's a 48-inch. We're roughing it because it's not steak, it's ground beef. They don't know what pitch of the tent mean. Only for upper income. No, it's not for upper income. It's for the younger generation. It's for all incomes. Low income housing has pools in it. Gen Zs are looking for pools in their backyard or pools within walking distance. Gen Zs are looking for fitness centers in their neighborhood where they can go there, and they're looking for it at no additional cost. So if they put it into the rent, if they put it into the cost of the rent, you can go to the fitness center whenever you want to, and you can bring a friend. It is cheaper to use the gym at your apartment complex than it is for you to use a gym membership that you have to pay for, but you're paying more money on the rent. So why would you pay? Again, I told you the property value is worth $1 per square foot. So if you have a 750 square foot unit, then you're paying $1,000 a month for it. They're paying $300 extra dollars a month for the amenities. So the washer and dryer, the pool, the fitness center, all of that stuff is included in the rent. That's where you turn your profit. And it's stuff that not everybody uses. So while you might have 500 people in your complex or 500 people on your properties, if you're charging $300 over the standard average per property for every 100 properties, you just made 300 extra $1,000 because you're charging $300 more per unit on the rent for amenities, for luxurious amenities. People love convenience. 500 units is not one complex. No, it doesn't have to be one complex. 500 units could be 50 complexes, but it doesn't change the fact that 500 units could be charging an extra $300 per unit on the rent in order to accommodate all of those amenities that are very rarely used. And that doesn't even include paying for reserved parking or paying for covered parking or paying for garage parking, which are all inflated costs that is added to the rent in a far above and beyond the standard dollar per square foot average that the property is worth. Just saying. So when you take all that into consideration, yeah, you could charge more, you can make more, and the tenant will love it because of the convenience. I got a pool, I got a washer and dryer, my car's in the garage, I ain't got to go nowhere. God forbid, fully furnished, you already know that's going to be expensive. That unit is going to be expensive. At least it is in America. Now, let's look at these eco tourists talking about some camping outside. Tripping. So they're out there glamorously camping, but they want a king size bed, a hot shower, a private desk with a stunning view, and an experience that feels unique. That is not camping. That is nowhere near camping. Man, we going camping. We're going to the hotel. We're gonna stay in the hotel. That's camping. They tripping. Right now in the Balkans, this glamping market is just beginning to catch fire. While there are over 250 glamping sites across the whole Balkan region, the concept is still incredibly fresh in uh, Bosnia, meaning the first movers have a massive advantage because they're going to be making the most profit off of this before this becomes popular. And then they're going to have competition where you're either going to have to put more amenities there or charge a cheaper price to outdo the other person. So, what does this business actually look like? We're going to break it down in just a second. He says cheaper to pick up that shovel and get that hole dug. Well, when we start talking about spending money responsibly versus living the life of Raleigh, I perfectly agree. You better dig your own damn hole. Truth, did you know that if you dug the hole first, then pitched the tent around the hole, and then cratered that hole with a little bit of a blanket, you would have a cooler night's sleep than what you would just laying on the flat surface of the ground because it is cooler beneath the earth surface than what it is on the earth's surface. It's almost like laying in air conditioning. Yeah, that's a lot of fucking work though. But if you dig a hole about the size of the tent, not quite expanding past the tent because you want the tent to cover the hole. And then you use the dirt that you took out of the hole and use it to pack around the tent. You keep the tent from flying away. It's a lot of work. Motherfuckers know I was there because it's like, damn, there's 12 holes over here, 5 by 5 deep. And then I lost my job there. Here to tow the car. Shit, should have been sleeping in that car. They can't tow it if that motherfucker always on the move. Every time you see flashing lights, you pull off. So, in order to do glamping, first you need land. And actually, you can do this here in America. We have not thought about this method here in America, but we could do this here in America. First, you need land, but you don't necessarily need to buy it. You can buy it, own, and have it. Many rural areas in Bosnia, you can just get a long term lease on a stunning piece of property for a surprisingly low cost. Now, landowners are often eager to find ways to make money from the land that they have without selling it. So they will rent out the unused property and you do whatever you want to do with it because I'm going to make profits off of the fact that I get to keep my land. I can leverage my land towards other financial assets and get money off of you borrowing my land for whatever money opportunity that you're about to make. And everybody makes money because everybody got to eat. He's an ecotourist, a cabin, a bed, toilet, and an outdoor shower. No, 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 no. Indoor shower. They want to do an indoor shower with an indoor TV and an indoor swimming pool so that they can get the feel of camping outdoors in the woods. They're calling that an eco tourist. If these some bitches don't go get them one of them pop up tents from goddamn Walmart, take their ass out there and go sleep in the dirt. Eco means economy, but there is nothing economic about that. There's nothing financially savvy about that. They overly expressive behind going into the woods and living into a 5-star hotel with trees in the window so that they can feel like they're in the forest. Get out of here. You could have just stayed your ass at home. You could have just put woods on your TV as a screensaver and just played wilderness sounds on YouTube, like and subscribe, and got the feel of camping outside without ever leaving your damn house. What kind of bullshit? This is what they do. Especially if you're 6 feet under. If you dig a 6 foot hole, now you got a two-story campsite. Now, when you're building these places, your initial legal cost would involve securing the lease and getting the right permits. So, partnering with local legal experts is very key to do this with, but it's a manageable hurdle. Next, the structures. So, we're not talking about simple tents here when we start talking about this. Think of state of the art geodesic domes, luxury safari tents, or custom built A frame cabins. That's what we're talking about. High quality, fully equipped glimping unit from European suppliers might cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. That's a fucking mini home from Elon Musk. Jesus Christ. So let's say you start with like three of them. For an initial investment of about $30,000 to $75,000, you have the core of your business going on there. Compare that to the millions it would take to build a traditional hotel. That's a massive save. You still need money to start this journey. Buy land with a view or something interesting. Yeah, you can do that. Now, you're furnished. And this is where you tap into another of Bosnia's strengths. It's a skilled artisans. It's of Instead of buying generic furniture, you commission local woodworkers to create unique handcrafted pieces, stuff that you don't see in stores. And this is not only supporting the local economy, but it becomes a huge part of your brand story because you have the cabins in the woods that are shaped like animals or something to that effect. Your guests aren't just staying in a tent, they're staying in a living showcase of Bosnia's craftsmanship, which is fantastic for you to make some money. Now, the business model has multiple revenue streams because the main one is accommodation. The luxury glimping pod in a location like this that could easily go for $150 to $250 per night in a country where the rent for an apartment is $800 a month. So you're making a little over 25% the rent, 25, a little over 25% of the month's rent every night doing this, which is why I'm telling y'all this shit here is better than it. If you spend 75 grand on three high end units doing this instead of spending $250,000 on a apartment complex to get $800 a month per unit when you're getting $250 a month per unit over here, especially during high season, you making some decent money. And that's before you start charging people to take tours. He said, absolutely true. Eco, they cook for you. They take you on tours of the wildlife. And meals are very, very good. Well, I mean, if you got this setup going on, you also could have pamphlets that have tour guides where they set it up with you, almost like Priceline. You get a commission off of setting them up with the tour guide, and the tour guide takes them all through the jungle and sniff the lion's butt and everything to that effect. But that's extra money. That's extra money that you make. Surrounded by electric fences to keep animals out because they want to live in the wild. So they, it's a lot like those folks that want to go swimming with sharks, but they're only going to swim with the shark while they're inside of this giant metal cage where the shark can't eat them. Hey, bro, you ain't swimming with sharks. You're floating in the fucking metal fish tank. If you wanted to swim with sharks, you would not have the cage around you. But it would eat me. Then don't swim with sharks. Go swim with dolphins. Dolphins never eaten anybody. Got me going on ridiculous tangents right now. So let's be conservative about what we're doing with Bosnia. Say that you have three pods and you're charging an average of $180 a night, and it hits 60% occupancy rate over a 6 month period of the season. That's around $58,000 in revenue in your first year from the pods alone, where the pods cost you $75,000 to put down. And as glimping becomes more of an all season thing in the Balkans, you could extend your seasons and boost that number significantly, where you're making more money per year than what it costs you to put the buildings in the ground. Like I said, first class air from Seattle to South Africa, $120,000. Shit, that kind of money, I'm flying in a damn luggage compartment. Then 2 weeks, another $120,000. They tripping. That's 240 grand. Some people don't make that in 20 years. Yee, doggy. Y'all, we got something to work for y'all now. Y'all, those of y'all that are not making a $240,000 to do a 2 week round trip vacation, we gonna have to make some money, y'all. Now, it don't stop here. This is where we're gonna go eco and experience, where this part is gonna turn us into like, I can't believe they did that, and they willing to pay for it too. Oh, he said just to find out that wooden giraffe you paid $200 for, you could have bought it at Pier One for 19.95. You could have bought that bitch off of Temu for 10.95. You could have bought it from Etsy with your name engraved on it for 25.95. Plus $15 of shipping and handling to get it next day delivery. They be buying stuff $200 so that they can make it seem like it was luxurious, bro. Handcrafted, whittled, whatever you want to call it. Some bitch sitting on the porch with a straw in their mouth, chewing on the straw and sharp carving a stick. It don't matter where the hell they carving the stick at. They carving the stick. Now, if you willing to pay $200 for a stick that's shaped like a giraffe, oh wait, a stick that's shaped like a snake. Oh wait, a stick that's shaped like a Harry Potter wand. Ain't all three of those a damn stick? Hey, you want to pay $200 for a stick? Go pay $200 for a stick. But I tell you what, I can karate kick a tree in the backyard right now and go get me a stick and not have to pay $200 for it. Now, you're gonna create a curated package for these glimpers. You're going to partner with local guides for hiking, fly fishing, or rafting tours, and you're going to organize cooking classes where your guests learn how to feed themselves to make that traditional Bosnian food. And then you can have an on-site sauna or hot tub. Now we just sat here and argued for 40 minutes about not having pools in America, but we're gonna put hot tubs and saunas in Bosnia's campsites. You're camping in the woods with a hot tub and a sauna, king size bed, 70-foot flat screen TV, live projector, central area heat. He tripping. uh, just to find out. Yeah, okay. So he said $200 per night. Yeah, $200 a night. That's what they paying for. $200 a night. That's some like uh man. That's some like Howard Johnson. That's some Hyatt style. That's some like expensive like embassy suites kind of. Ooh, ooh, prices to go sleep in the woods. Now, after you put the sauna on site or the hot tub down there, which is going to be a huge draw because everybody wants to soak in some hot water. Not a hot spring, which is a hole in the ground full of hot water from a volcano eruption. We're talking about a man-made, built-in hot spring sauna, hot tub kind of thing, with a deck and a patio and a shower room. Y'all listening to how this is no longer turning into a camp it's actually turning into like a 5-star resort surrounded by trees. Now, each of these is another high margin revenue stream because they're going to pay for that shit too. So your startup costs are a fraction of a traditional hotel. Your operating costs are low, and your profit potentials are enormous in this particular type of scenario. The marketing is also highly visual and perfect for social media. A few killer photos of your unique pods against this incredible landscape are all you need to start attracting international travelers. Talk to some local guys who owns a few acres all around a river, and once you explain the glimping concept, eyes are going to light up. If they got land and the connections, all they're missing is the vision for the high volume model. Not too many people are going to turn this down because, believe it or not, people would pay a premium to stay in a tent built like a hotel, no matter how fancy that son of a bitch is. This is the knowledge of the gap. The opportunity is there for someone to connect the dots and build a 6-figure business on a foundation of spectacular nature and affordable resources. And this isn't just about building a campsite, it's about building a brand that offers a return to nature wrapped in luxury. So, from the silence of the mountains, we would come to the heart of the city and our second unorthodox investment. So we haven't even covered all of them. We've been here for almost 2 hours and we only covered one. All around Bosnia is living history of craftsmanship. So for centuries, artisans in these workshops have been creating beautiful handmade goods. And you have the Kazan Kazandazi, I don't know how you pronounce that, Kazanzi and the coppersmiths hammering out traditional coffee pots, or the zezvas, I don't know if I'm saying that right, zezvas that are out there building stuff. So you have the wood carvers of Kanjik and tradition so unique that it's recognized by UNESCO, UNICEF, which was supposed to be something that was happening in Bangladesh. Special shout out to Bangladesh. Remember all those luxury costs, money, and people will pay for it. That is true. That is true. That's what I was telling you about all those apartments. People will pay for luxury. They'll pay extra for luxury. All you got to do is just itemize it on the rent, on the lease. So you'll have jewelers, you'll have weavers, and leather workers at your disposal. He said, I forgot privacy, high cost. That was the one thing I did not tell you, but that is the reason why washers and dryers in unit are more valuable than washers and dryers in the common areas. People pay for their privacy, but they also pay for luxury. And after they dumbass pay for privacy, they abandon privacy to show off all of the stuff that they have in their private sector. Ain't that some shit? If you spent so much money to be private, nobody should know what the hell you got. But people so bougie that they gotta show off all the stuff in their vault so that people can be jealous of all the stuff they got in their vault until somebody decide to come over and knock that vault off and then they don't got nothing. Oh, I got robbed. Nobody would rob you if they didn't know you had something worth stealing. Just saying. You're gonna notice that when we're doing this stuff in Bosnia, the quality and authenticity are going to be off the charts. But what's the problem? Because there's always going to be a problem. The business model for these artisans hasn't changed in over 400 years. That's going to be a huge issue. Their market is mostly the tourist who happens to walk by. So when the tourists go home, the sales stop. Some have tried to sell online, but they're masters of their craft, not e commerce. Digital marketing is not their strong suit or international logistics. So this is another opportunity for you. And it's a massive one because the second investment is to become a digital first global aggregator for Bosnian artisan crafts. You can create the websites for them. This is not about drop shipping cheap trinkets. This is about building a premium global brand and a kind of Harvard of the Balkans built on authentic, ethical sourcing and masterful storytelling. Think of companies like BH Crafts, which started as a project to help women after the war and grew into a successful export oriented business. They provided the model works that everyone else is using, but the market is so vast and the pool of artisans is so deep that there's room for many more players, especially with a sharp, modern, direct to consumer marketing approach. So, how do you build this? First, curation and relationships. You spend time on the ground, find the very best artisans across the country, not just in Sarajevo, but in Mostar, Kanjik, and smaller villages. You build personal relationships, you guarantee them fair prices, much better than what they get from a bulk souvenir wholesaler. You're not just a buyer, you're their partner, their getaway to the world. That's going to help them connect the dots from their isolated situation to the whole world. Second, you're going to build a world class e commerce platform. And this is your digital storefront. It needs stunning photography and video that tells the story behind every product. Who made this? What's the history of this technique? You're not just selling a coffee pot, you're selling a piece of cultural heritage. He say, keep those curtains closed. We already pulled back the curtain. We already pulled back the curtain. We're going to show you guys. The third one that you're going to get into now is going to be logistics because this is the biggest hurdle for individual artisans. You solve it for them. You set up a central hub in Sarajevo. I don't know if I'm ever saying these countries right, but you're going to set it up there for quality control, packaging, and shipping. You negotiate rates with international carriers like DHL or FedEx. Your packaging itself becomes an extension of the brand, beautiful, sustainable, and creating an unboxing experience that feels as premium as the product inside. The government unrest. What are you talking about? The government is asleep. The government been asleep for 15 days. What are they unrested for? Some half them some bitches ain't been to work since the first. They should be very rested right now. And all they had to do was argue with one another in the same damn chair. So they should have been extremely rested because they ain't said shit since the first government unrest. Your startup costs here aren't in factories, they're in marketing. And sometimes that does cost you a pretty penny. But you use targeted ads on Instagram, Pinterest, or you come to this channel and see some, and you reach out to interior design influencers and lifestyle bloggers. You create content that educates a Western audience about the richness of Bosnian crafts. A hand carved wooden bowl that sells for $50 in a local market could sell for $200 or more to a customer in New York who values its unique story and handmade quality. Looking at the financials, your initial investment is relatively low. It's the cost of a top tier website, a marketing budget, and the first inventory purchase. So you could realistically get this going for under $50,000. Your gross margins can be huge. You might buy a product for $50 and sell it for 200. After marketing and shipping, you could still be looking at a net margin of about 30 to 50%. The business is incredibly scalable. You start with a curated collection of 20 to 30 products. As revenue grows, you expand your network and bring on more artisans. You can branch into home decor, fashion, and even high end furniture. You let the artisans focus on what they do best, which is creating, while you handle what you do best, which is building global brands. This is a business with a soul. It preserves culture, heritage, provides a sustainable income for local craftsmen, and brings beautiful, meaningful objects into people's homes. Matter of fact, you can not only partner with them and put the stuff out there, you could also end up with at least one free sample from some of the things that they do, so that you have something to show off to the public, which means that your entire house could be filled with all of your partners' work, and that is a grand tour of success in your business, which your wife or husband and all of your kids could help you navigate. Because the more artisans that you bring on, the more diverse products that you have to add onto the website, the more locations you have to go to pick up product, the more product has to be brought to the warehouse, and the more people that have to be paid at the warehouse to package that shit up. It's a win win win. And because that digital bridge is still so weak, it's an opportunity that is ripe for the taking. Now, we've covered massive opportunities, high end tourism, and global brands for local artisans. These are the kinds of ideas that can genuinely change your life, and they are hiding in plain sight. I'm always on the lookout for anything similar to this, all kinds of asymmetric bets where a small investment can lead to a huge reward. So, if you think about these opportunities that I have provided to you, if this would have been in a new weekly newsletter, we would have even deeper investment ideas from all over the world. And that's something that you got to think about. So you got to make sure that you remember to like and subscribe, and also utilize those notification buttons, because this is going to be where I share you guys all of the stuff that in-depth niches are being missed, overlooked. And this is stuff that hasn't been on video yet. You have not seen this on social media. This type of information just came out with me. It's always been around, but I'm the first person to tell you where to go and what to do to get it. Now, let's get to that third and maybe the most scalable unorthodox investment of all of them. So we've talked about the business that brings people in, eco glamping, and one that sends products out, the artisan platform. But what do both of these businesses and hundreds more like them desperately need but struggle to find? That's our third investment, world class digital marketing. Digital marketing. The final unorthodox investment isn't starting another tourism business. It's starting a niche service business that serves all of the clients that you have, specifically a digital market agency that specializes in the Bosnian tourism and hospitality sector. This is a classic sell the shovels during the gold rush play. As tourism in Bosnia grows, more people are starting small guest houses, tour companies, and boutique hotels. They all face the same problem. They're passionate hosts and great guides, but they're not digital marketers. Their websites are often outdated. Their social media is inconsistent. They don't understand SEOs, so they don't show up on Google. They're leaving a huge amount of money on the table. The country has a growing IT sector, but much of it is focused on software development for export, leaving a service gap for these local small businesses. What did I tell you the other day? Find the niche, master the niche, and then you are able to sell the needs to the customer, making profits easy and scalable. This is where you're going to come in. As a foreign entrepreneur, you like have a native understanding of what a Western tourist expects online. So you know what their customer is looking for when they Google stuff. You know the importance of a seamless booking experience, high quality photos, and social proof like reviews. That knowledge is going to be rare and valuable assets in this particular situation. So let's blueprint this particular business. Your startup cost is almost zero because it's your laptop and your brain. You can work out of a co-working space for a couple $100 a month. Your business is your expertise. You'd offer a suite of services for this particular niche. The digital foundation, the package for a one time fee, you build a modern, mobile friendly website with a booking engine for a guest house. You do a professional photo shoot. You set up their Google business profile correctly. And this, along with providers, that is going to give you huge value. Along with those providers, you're going to need the social media management retainer for a monthly fee, say $500 to $1,500 a month. You take over their social media. So you create content, run targeted ads, and engage with their community. With an internet penetration rate of over 86% and more than 2 million social media users in the country, it's a powerful channel. You could take some of the money that they're giving you to run ads with every month in addition to, and if you're doing multiple bathhouses, you don't have to do much work. You have multiple different websites, and then you have one social media channel that is broadcasting all of the bathhouses at the same time. Go here today, go here tomorrow. The all-in-one growth partner retainer. This is going to be your premium offering. For a higher monthly fee, you become their outsourced marketing department, handling everything from SEOs to paid ads. Your goal is simple: increase their direct booking and profitability. Why is this so powerful? First, it's reoccurring revenue. Retainers mean predictable cash flow. I'm going to tell you this again. Retainers mean predictable cash flow. With just 5 clients paying you an average of $1,000 a month, you have a $60,000 a year business with extremely high profit margins. With 10 clients, you're at about $120,000. You can then hire local talent to help you manage the accounts while you focus on growth. Second, you become an indispensable partner when you can show a hotel owner that your work increased their direct booking by 30%, saving them thousands on commission. You are no longer a cost, you are an investment. Third, the business is incredibly scalable. You start as a one person consultant and grow into a boutique agency. You can even create online courses to teach uh, hoteliers the basics themselves, creating another revenue stream. And here's the kicker: the tax environment is going to be amazing. Bosnia has a flat corporate tax rate of 10%, and that's one of the lowest in Europe. So as your profitable services grow with your business, you keep more of the money that makes you successful. This is a business multiplier. By making other businesses more successful, you build a successful enterprise for yourself. Again, my success is the success of the people around me. Fantastic business model. You're providing a desperately needed service, leveraging your outsider's knowledge and building a scalable, high profile business in a market that's just waking up to its digital needs. So, three unorthodox investments you can get into in Bosnia: luxury eco glimping business that leapfrogs traditional hospitality, an e-commerce powerhouse that puts centuries of tradition on the global stage, and a niche marketing agency that fuels the entire tourism sector. What connects all of them? They don't require millions in capital. They're about seeing the gaps, they're about connecting the dots, and they're about taking a business model that's common in the West and applying it to an emerging market that is hungry for it. After a little bit of time on the ground here, it's obvious the opportunities are very real, but there's going to be a catch. This is not a get rich quick country. It is a get rich smart country. Success here requires a willingness to navigate bureaucracies, build genuine relationships, and see the potential that lies just beneath the surface. The IMF and World Bank projects steadily grow, but they also highlight risks like political complexity. And this is why partnering with local experts isn't just a good idea, it's essential. But for the right kind of entrepreneur, the creative, the gritty, the one who looks where others aren't, Bosnia and Herzegovina isn't just one of the cheapest countries in Europe. It's a land of profound opportunity. So there are real gold mines that isn't in the ground, it is in the gaps. It is the unmet needs, the underserved markets, and the untold stories. So the question is here: are you willing to be one of the ones that fills the gaps? Now, I've shared you guys three paths that I've seen, and there are dozens more that I haven't come across yet. The country is a canvas, and for the right person, it's a chance to paint a masterpiece. So, we're going to wrap things up with the question: which of these three businesses would you start if you were in Bosnia? Or did I miss another opportunity? Let me know in the comments because I read every single one of them. Now, before we walk out, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, we have multiple opportunities to make ourselves high end, high value men, highly successful individuals. And I give you guys information every day of the week as to what you can do to make changes that benefits you and helps you grow. However, while we are a 61% male driven podcast from the male perspective, ladies, this information is not exclusive to the men. Y'all can take this information and turn yourselves into high value women. I've already given you information about countries like Bangladesh that is dominantly a female workforce, small business owners that are successful small business owners. Women can go out into Bosnia and change the entire work scenario and turn profits on the marketing, turn profits on the resorts, turn profits on uh, subcontracting the tour guides, and make businesses that are self sustainable and ultimately an ecosystem of financial success. All it takes is a little bit of effort and a lot of bit of patience. So that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.